After our definitely not crazy girlfriend, who was upset that we had a red book in our hands, dropped a meteor on the town, we wake up once again, this time on the same bridge, and not in a classroom. And also once again, Raya is missing, and we need to spend another chapter trying to find her, I guess. However, this chapter is when things in the game start to go from good to really good. So, here's what happens in Chapter 4 in A Space for the Unbound. Chapter 4 begins with another flashback with Nirmala. This time, we are hiding away in our headquarters from the rain, while Nirmala is just casually enjoying everything. Nirmala begins talking about the Star Princess's new item, the magic wand. It's at this point in the game where I really start to look for parallels in the flashbacks to the main world. I felt like there was a bit of overlapping going on that was just going way over my head, so I'm trying to pay more attention to them here now. Anyways, we promised Nirmala that if we finish the book, we'll take her to the fireworks festival, something that she's been looking forward to. We wake up from the flashback on the bridge and find yet another girl. This girl is Marin, a girl we met before. We originally met Marin before when we collided with her in Chapter 1, when the red book mysteriously appeared. Anyways, Marin is back and will probably be Raya's next victim, just a guess based off of the previous trends in this game. We tell Marin that we need to stop Raya from hurting anyone else, and Marin agrees to help us. Marin states that she has a plan, and that it's not safe to be here on the bridge. As she says that, furniture conveniently starts to fall from the sky. You know, normal things that happen during the apocalypse. So, by narrowly dodging falling furniture from the sky, we make our way over to Marin's base camp, which strangely looks like the base camp we had with Nirmala. On the way though, we see someone who definitely doesn't look like us in any way, mysteriously walking away. We are now able to interrogate Marin and pump some answers out of her to somewhat explain what all is happening to the world. We first learn that Marin has been collecting magic artifacts, just like the red book that we used to have. We then learn that Raya's anger has destabilized the whole universe, which is causing all of the chaos to happen and for people to start acting weird. And if we don't stop it, it could end the whole world. It is here that Atma asks one of the dumbest questions he could possibly ask. And instead of explaining it here, I'm just going to let the livestream clip speak for itself. Bogus gemstone seller, but you really think Raya could start the apocalypse? Bro, are you really asking that question? Isn't that a bit crazy? You're free to think that way. Surely you've seen enough to arrive at the same conclusion as me. We've literally seen her create a whole cat paradise and take control of everybody and manipulate people into acting psychotic. And you're seriously doubting that she could cause the apocalypse? My guy, look out a window. It turns out that Marin and Raya were childhood friends. However, it seems that there was a falling out of sorts between the two of them. But Marin says that it isn't important right now. Something that I disagree with, but whatever. Marin believes that Raya is at the school, as that is where the bright blue beacon is coming from. So we set the school as the place to go and confront Raya. Marin then starts to go over the magical artifacts that she's collected, and states that two of them are more powerful than the rest. The first artifact is the magic red book, which Marin reveals was planted by her and given to us when she collided with us in Chapter 1. She was already aware of space diving and wanted to observe what we could do with it. Marin believes that the only way to stop Raya from destroying the world is by performing a space dive on her. Little does Marin know, though, that we lost the book and that it was destroyed by Raya. Marin gets upset though when we tell her that we lost the book, and mentions that she has a backup plan on how to stop Raya, but that it's a long shot. Because of course it is. When is it never a long shot? Marin then reveals the second magical item to us, which is the magic wand. The magic wand is an interesting item as it allows us to open a rift in time, allowing us to dive into the memory of a specific place rather than a specific person like the red book does. However, Marin warns us that this process has never been tested before, and warns us not to change anything in the past as it could affect the future. It's here, during this conversation, that we learn that there are actually two Star Princesses. I took a guess here in stream that Nirmala and Raya are the two Star Princesses, which I might add seems to be a pretty obvious theory. But as we learn in this chapter and in the next chapter, there are many plot twists that I never saw coming. Anyways, we open up the rift door, and Marin reveals that she is the one who actually created the magic wand. I don't know what to think of that, but it's whatever, I guess. I thought I might as well mention it here. Once we go back to the past, we make our way over to the bridge that we fell off of at the beginning of the game. We see a young Marin upset about something and spot the magic red book in the water. We fish it out with a net and now have a new magic red book, which for some reason still has all of our collectibles in it. The rift dive ends, but not before we get another flashback to the events of us falling in the river while Nirmala cries out to us. We then suddenly wake back up at the base camp with the magic red book in hand. Marin takes us outside and shows us a giant blue flower off in the distance at the high school. She explains that the giant flower is Raya's power made manifest, and Raya is most likely at the flower. So that is where we decide to head off next. I want to point out here though, that when you are walking through the town, the music is all distorted, and I really like that change. It really just makes everything feel eerie and off-putting. I just wanted to point that out here because I love when video games alter their own soundtracks to fit a mood or a scene. As we were walking towards the school, we noticed everyone in town acting weird. Like the dog dude was acting like an actual dog, and we had to play fetch with him to get the path cleared. Weird normal Tuesday afternoons here, I guess. As we continue making our way through town, we encounter another rift dive opportunity. This time, it takes us to the outside of Raya Cafe, where we meet up with the pastry chef girl. You know, the one that we sabotaged by removing her interest in other career paths. Well, now in this dive, she's a Chinese chef and is struggling to keep up with the demand for work. Turns out, the old dude in the cafe is dead, and now this poor chef has to fend for herself. Turns out, the space dive we did on her earlier in the game really screwed her up, and now we have to go back to the past through the rift dives and help her out again via another space dive. This begins another space dive into the chef, which isn't hard, just a simple cake puzzle. We get a will from the space dive, which we give to the chef. The will tells her to follow her dreams, and the chef then gets passionate to start her own Chinese food cart business, which we briefly help her with by taking orders for. We then have to do another space dive, this time on the Doomsayer man. The space dive's pretty easy. We're just helping him remember that he has a kid, and that the kid is the most important thing of his life, and that he's been neglecting the kid to sell stones to people afraid of the end of the world. Easy stuff, moving on. As we are walking along, we find the Lintane Festival, and everyone's seemingly enjoying themselves and having a good time. It's awful. We then find Definitely Not Us again, and he calls the biker dudes to stop us from reaching Raya. This starts another series of space dives and rift dives to correct space dives we did earlier in the game on the Sensei. This part of the game is hands down my least favorite. It's a series of rift dives within a rift dive, all while you have to do space dives on various people. If that sounds very confusing, it's because it is. It's also very tedious and wasn't fun to play at all. I will talk more about the game though and my thoughts on it in the finale, but right now I just want to say that this part of the game was bad. I would like to point out here also though that I accidentally solved the puzzle in Sensei's space dive, allowing me to skip a chunk of the game here. This also allowed me to keep a key item that I needed to complete this quest, the cleaning spray bottle. So it kind of became a symbol for us in the live stream. Once we complete all the rift dives and space dives, we get to have a brawl with the street thugs, which we win, of course. It's also here that the cold reality really hits me. I realized here that I failed to befriend all the animals, I failed to collect all the yeoman letters, and worst of all, I failed to collect all the bottle caps. I missed a single bottle cap. I will never forgive myself for this failure. It's alright though, I definitely plan on playing this game again, and when I do, I'm going to make sure I 100% it and get all the achievements. And apparently there's a secret ending. It's not like a different ending or anything, it's just like an extra cutscene that plays at the end, but I'll talk about that in the finale. This series, when I play it again, probably won't be on the channel, just be personal, so no need to worry about that. And also I want to point out that I tried my best to get all of the collectibles. I thought I was doing everything, but I guess I missed quite a bit. We finally arrive at the school and Marin rushes ahead of us to see Raya. As that happens, a roller falls from the sky, and then an entire plane falls from the sky and crashes right into the school itself, blocking the entrance. Raya actually just 9/11'd the school itself. She's definitely crazy deep down, but I respect her commitment. This just means we need to find another way into the school, and you all know what that means. It's time for another rip dive. This time though, we have a long fetch quest to do inside the school. However, this time we have a new type of foe. A foe never before seen in this game before. A foe so intimidating that many gamers quit the game here due to the pure skill that is required to pass through. Math. That's right, in order to get the sledgehammer that we need to break down the wall to get into the school, we have to complete basic algebra. I'm not even kidding. You actually have to run around and find multiple algebra equations to solve for the letters N, I, K, and E. The password to the safe is the value of the letters spelt out Nicken, who is the counselor who owns the safe. While we're searching for the equations, we stumble across the mountain club people, and the girl climber asks out the male climber. They are the ultimate couple of the playthrough, in my opinion. I just wanted to point them out because there's just something so heartwarming about their innocent little dialogue. We head back to the safe and I do math on stream to solve for Nicken, and the safe opens and we get the sledgehammer. We then go over to the wall again and smash a hole in it, and then leave the rift dive so we can enter the school. We make our way to the yard and find Marin talking to Raya. It turns out that the person who is definitely not Atma is actually Atma. Who could have thought? What's even weirder is that Raya revealed that she made the new Atma because she thought we were gone. She thought we died in the meteor hit, so she cheated on us with another us. Marin starts begging Raya to forgive her and explain that she wants things to go back to how they used to be, back when they used to write stories together. But Raya's not having any of it. Raya uses her power on Marin. However, when she tries to use her power, we step in and block the attack with the magic wand, somehow. This is when everything starts to come together and fall apart at the same time. We're taken back in time to a flashback of Nirmala talking to Marin. We then learn a major truth about Nirmala and her relationship to Raya. Again, I could explain it with words here, but I'm just gonna let the realization of it hitting me from the live stream play here. So enjoy the clip. This is, I was countering Raya's attack with the magic wand, and did I accidentally open a rift? Oh, what timeline is this? Oh, is Nirmala Raya? Nirmala's Raya? So yeah, it turns out that Nirmala is Raya and that Raya is Nirmala. But more details on that will come soon, don't worry. The flashback resumes with Marin wanting to learn about Raya/Nirmala's stories, but she is told that only Atma can hear them. Marin asks if she can meet Atma, but Nirmala answers with a quiet no. I know what this is implying, or where this lands on the time frame, but don't worry, we will cover that later, so don't feel like you're being kept out of details or anything. Their conversation ends with Nirmala storming out, saying that Marin values the club more than her, and that Nirmala is feeling abandoned. This leads to us doing a space dive on Marin. Young Marin, at least. The space dive takes us to a flashback of Marin and Nirmala making the magic wand. This is when I ask myself a very important question. Oh, you beat me to it. Wait a minute, wait a minute. Wait a minute. If Raya really is Nirmala, then that means we ended up dating a child? How did that work? How did we stay the same age but Nirmala or Raya age up? I'm so confused. It finally hit me that Raya grew up, but for some reason we stayed the same age, or at least appeared to stay the same age. Or maybe we're just that bad in high school, that we've been stuck in it for so long. Don't worry, I didn't know at the time, but there is an answer to that question, so stay tuned to find out the real reason behind Raya and her relationship with Nirmala, as well as her relationship with Atma. This, though, is when things start to get sad. It's revealed that Marin, as a child, thought that Raya was weird and would leave her to hang out with other girls who also thought Raya was weird. This led to Marin basically abandoning Raya and leaving her all alone to deal with the bullying with no one to stand up for her. The space dive resumes with us having to follow Marin through a series of doors. As we walk through the doors, we learn a little more about Marin and Raya's relationship as kids. To save us all a lot of time, I'm just going to summarize everything that we learned through the doors and the type of friendship that Raya/Nirmala had with Marin. Raya was bullied pretty bad as a child. She would get harassed while Marin would just sit on the sidelines and watch, without stepping in for her friend. Even when Raya called out to her friend for help, Marin would just turn her back to Raya and just walk away. Raya also had an abusive upbringing at the hands of her father, who would frequently take out his aggression on her and his wife. We knew this about Nirmala at the beginning of the game, though, when we were sneaking into Nirmala's room to get the magic wand. Apparently, though, Marin knew about the abuse going on in Raya's personal life, and still wasn't there to comfort and support her friend. Even as they got older, Raya continued to get bullied. The other students would vandalize her work, but Marin would just stand by and let it happen. You can start to notice a trend here, right? Raya gets bullied, while Marin just stands by and watches without supporting her friend in any way. As seniors though, both Marin and Raya were interested in a career in the arts. However, Marin was accepted for this by her peers, while Raya was bullied for this. Raya drops in this conversation that she is not Nirmala, and that she cannot fight for her future like her. This confuses Marin, who has no idea what she's talking about. This is when another bomb drops. Raya mentions that Atma is the only one who understands her, which Marin responds with a question, asking her why she keeps talking about Atma like he's a real person. Marin searched through school archives, city records, phone books, and even newspapers over the last 10 years, and still couldn't find anything on Atma. Are you starting to put 2 and 2 together yet? If not, don't worry, I'm going to lay it all out here at the end of the video for you. The space dive ends and we receive another piece of the fairy tale. As we obtain the paper, Nirmala calls out to Marin. Nirmala uses her power on Marin, like always, but things are a little different this time around. Bosk then reveals that him and Nirmala aren't changing anyone, and that they're simply revealing their true forms. When Nirmala reveals someone's true form, it's actually Raya's perception of them. In Marin's case, her perception of Marin is twisted by anger and jealousy, the jealousy of the life Marin got to live while Raya wished she could have had as a child, only to have her best friend turn her back on her and leave her to be bullied by their peers. Bosk then reveals that Raya is getting weaker by the day, and that her denial is hurting her, and that him and Nirmala are actually trying to save her. Raya is locking away her hatred and anger in this world, which is entirely an illusion. If Raya keeps using her energy on this world, she will die. Bosk says that Raya has to be able to face the things that she's keeping inside all this time. That is how the space dive ends and we're sent back to Raya's world. We get out of the space dive and we immediately see multiple Atmas while Marin turns into a giant snail monster. Turns out that Raya created more Atmas to help her feel her pain and to be with her through it. As Raya attempts to destroy Marin, we try to stop her, but the Atma clones get in our way of doing so. Unfortunately, Raya destroyed Marin and collapsed from doing so. The Atma clones all collapsed as a result also, so that was easy. This opened up Raya to the space dive, where we can finally start to figure out what is going on in Raya's heart and try to save her. The space dive starts with a flashback with Nirmala, explaining that Atma had gotten a job and hadn't seen Nirmala in a while. When a storm sets in and it's time for them to go home, Nirmala doesn't want to, and explains that she feels empty and lifeless at home and is afraid of her father. Where Nirmala states that she wants to run away from home, Atma talks her down by giving her the reality of everything. That he works hard to survive and doesn't have time or energy to even be creative, the thing he ran away to do. He was about ready to give up on life when he met Nirmala and everything started to seem fun again, and that he genuinely enjoys working with Nirmala on the story. We then promise her that we will finish the book of the Star Princess together. The game then cuts back to the beginning of the game where we fall in the water to save Raya/Nirmala when Atma appeared to drown. We then wake up in a space with a couple of withered flowers. We then walk into a memory of Raya's, where she was rescued from the water and saved from drowning. As people are trying to talk to Nirmala, she keeps asking if they saved Atma, and that there's a high schooler still in the river. However, people tell her that they couldn't find him. We then come back from the memory and follow Nirmala through a door just to find an old TV in an empty room. We look at the TV and it's Nirmala standing on the bridge, alone, saying that she can't take it anymore. It's here that we see Raya separate herself from Nirmala. Raya, who blames herself for everything that happened, and Nirmala, the optimistic and creative side of her, who Raya distances herself from. If you haven't played the game before and you're seeing this for the first time, this cutscene is meant to be seen as symbolic and not to be interpreted as literal. Don't worry, I'll explain here in a moment. It's here that Raya blames herself for the storm and for the death of Atma, as it was her idea to cross the river on her own against Atma's wishes. We try to call out to Raya, but the screen that is reality cracks around us and then goes to black. And that is how Chapter 4 ends. Chapter 4 was such a wild chapter. with the revelation that Atma actually died and that we are living in a world created by Raya. It's absolutely creative, and the cliffhanger that it left me on was insane. So much so that I decided to go to the next chapter in the same stream. I couldn't put the game down, I had to keep playing. For those of you who need help putting everything into perspective, because I know I sure did, I only was able to piece this all together during editing of this video, and I was able to go through all my clips again and re-experience everything. So this is what has happened from the beginning of the game up until now. This is like the full timeline that we know so far at this point in the game. Okay? Atma was a real person who ran away from home as a high schooler to pursue his dreams of becoming a writer. Life was tough for him, where he had to fight to survive and was slowly losing himself and giving up. It was then that he met Nirmala, a young girl from a nearby town. Atma became very interested in the girl's story and decided to help her write the story. It's through the story that the two became fast friends. However, one day a storm set in. When Atma told Nirmala to stay on land and not to try and cross the river, Nirmala didn't listen and tried to cross the river on her own, but ended up falling in the water. Atma showed up and attempted to save her life, but fell in the water and ended up drowning. That's right, the real Atma is dead. Raya blamed herself for Atma's death and began disassociating herself from the Nirmala side of her. Raya's full name is actually Raya Nirmala, Ryan being the first name and Nirmala being her last name. However, Raya ended up creating the whole world that we were playing in throughout the game. It was some sort of imaginary dream that she had, one great big illusion, where she could be with Atma forever. However, by living this fantasy, Raya was only hurting herself by running away from her trauma and hiding her emotions. All this means is that the Atma we've been playing as is only a creation of Raya's memory and imagination. The real Atma drowned in the river when Raya was just a little girl. That is what we know so far. I know that there's more questions that are unanswered, but don't worry, these answers will come in chapter 5. As of making this video, I finally finished this game on livestream, and let me tell you all something, man. This game is about to get heartbreaking and emotional. This game has an emotional undertone to it that it's been hinting at for a while now, and it is about to lay it all out in the open. And I can tell you one thing, when I experienced this live for the first time, I was not ready for the emotions this game was about to make me feel.